It's really an honor and a privilege to be here and to be amongst all of you. I can tell you right now, I just love the presentations. I have totally blown it, so I'm sure that I'm hoarse. It's not from traveling, it's probably toxins. I'm eating everything wrong, right? I am terrible at social media. I haven't changed my LinkedIn in 10 years. But I am the person that gets up every morning, to your point, and says, God, I was born for this. So that I resonated with. Thank you for sharing that. I have to click this. Oops. Oh, there we go. So how I began, I'm going to tell you today, I don't have a fancy presentation. I wouldn't even know how to put one together, and I didn't ask anyone to help me. I really want to just tell you my story, and I want to tell you the mistakes I made and how I corrected them. And maybe that will be, I hope it'll be helpful for you. And I hope that when I'm done, that there are women in here that like what they do better and value the industry we're in more. And maybe one day will start their own company. So that is my goal. So when I first started in technology, it was in 1980. They didn't even have really laptops or PCs. I mean, it was very early in the industry. I was really lucky to start then. But the industry, I worked in the industry for 10 years to learn the industry. And in the 1980s, the environment was, there were really no women in technology. I mean, you want to talk boys club? There were no women. I was the only woman in the room ever, if I was ever even allowed in the room. I was an anomaly, right? And it was kind of the Wild West then. But I was in an industry that, I was a independent distributor. In those days, they called it a broker. In those days, they called them schlockers. There was no value to what we did, and we weren't thought of very well. And frankly, most people didn't behave very well, and they didn't deserve it. But I looked at this whole industry. I was introduced to technology. I had been a communications major in college, which had nothing to do with technology. I got lucky and somebody said, would you like to try this, while I was looking for my big PR job? And so I did. And I absolutely fell in love with it. Why? Because technology changes the world. Even in 1980, we didn't even have an internet yet. There was so much possibility. There were so many things happening. There was so much potential. I thought, my God, this is just so exciting. And it changes every day, and it just never obsoletes itself. It just becomes more and more advanced. It's unbelievable. And I got a chance to, in my role and working, I was an independent distributor, not a franchise distributor, not a factory direct. So my job was really to solve the problems. The supply chain is imperfect. It's still imperfect. There's too much, there's too little, there's all sorts of problems. So my job was to help solve that. So here I get into an industry that I get to, that really, how spectacular I'm in technology. How spectacular that I get to problem solve every day. How interesting. I get to use my mind. And oh my God, I get to work with all of these spectacular people, because I went into communications because I absolutely love people. And it absolutely appealed to me. So it pulled my strings of, I get to use my mind and I get to help people at the same time. And so what could be better? And I'm in technology. What could be better than that? So I absolutely fell in love with what I did, but the industry at that time, well, I'll tell you a story. I somehow got a meeting, because it was interesting, this unicorn, a girl. I somehow got a meeting with one of the top telecom companies in the world. And I flew across the country to the East Coast, and I will never forget that I walked in and he said to me, this is 6 months into my job, what is your value proposition? I thought, value proposition? I'd never even heard of a value proposition. I talked in a circle for 15 minutes. I had no idea what I was talking about, what he was asking me, and I was completely embarrassed. And I came home, and I thought, I will never, ever be embarrassed again. And I just got to work. And there was no internet, there was no Google. I had to really do a tremendous amount of research to ask and network and read everything I could to figure out what is a real value proposition. And then when I started thinking about a value proposition, I thought, is this value proposition, I know what it is now, but am I really living up to this? Is this company I work for living up to this? Then I started thinking about it. So that was the first big trigger for me. The second big trigger came when I was on the phone with a customer, and she started to cry, and she just started to weep because they weren't going to make the quarter. And it was because they couldn't find these parts, and they had gone obsolete. There was nothing out there. She had screwed up. It was just a really bad situation. She not only thought that she would get fired, but she thought that if they didn't make the quarter, many people might be laid off. It was that important to this company. And it broke my heart. And being somebody that I care so much about people, I hung up, and I literally, I left no stone unturned. I worked and worked. I came in on the weekend. I looked at crosses to the cross and the upgrade to the cross. I found a solution. And they made the quarter. And I will never forget that. I don't remember it because I made X amount of dollars. I don't remember it because I figured out something that 30,000 engineers around the world at this company couldn't figure out. I was so happy to help this woman. I was so happy and proud. I was hooked. That was it. So those were the two things that happened early in my career. Not knowing my value proposition, figuring out what a real value proposition was and what was really necessary. And then listening to a customer of what they really wanted. What did they really need? And who in the hell in this industry, or in the industry as it existed to that day, even cared about the customer? It's hard, I move on. I go work on something else. I don't have to solve her problem. So I knew that it was my job or my goal and my destiny to start my own company that would think differently, do differently, and would really actually care about the customer. And I didn't see it at the time. So in 1992, I started RAND. And to this day, 33 years later, we are the only global independent distribution company in the world that's 100% woman-owned in the industry. Thank you. I'll tell you though, I wish there were many more. People ask me why. I don't know why, because it's hard. Maybe I didn't hear the first speech this morning. Maybe there's doubt, lack of confidence. But I can tell you, when I first started the company, I wanted my tagline to be the company that cares. And everyone said, too feminine, lame, no. So, because remember, I started my company in 1992. So I also had to be realistic. But there was definitely a boys' club. So when I started my company, it wasn't just about being a woman in a man's world, no question. I was the only female, the woman-owned company. But also, there were a couple different challenges. Number one, the channel I worked in was not respected. So that's a hurdle to get over, right? You're a carpetbagger, you're a thief, right? Right? So that's what was thought of, right? So I was in an industry and I was doing a job that I absolutely believe in that truly created value. Because what was the customer to do if they can't get it direct and they can't get it from a franchise, or somebody made a mistake, or something went obsolete, or there was a hurricane, or something happened? Who was there? Who is unbiased that is just looking to solve the problem and using the world palette to do it? I don't know. My franchises are working on behalf of their suppliers. My direct supplier is working on behalf of his company to get more design in. Who is working on behalf of the customer? That was my job. So I started Rand, and there was a boys' club. So number one, I was fighting for the respect of my industry and my channel and what we did. Number two, it was a boys' club. So a lot of the deals and a lot of the business, there was a perception that women were not as smart, nor as capable, nor as experienced as men. And they couldn't be trusted. A woman-owned business, really? Seriously? So the men in the industry, they met in bars, at that time, strip clubs, golf courses. So I didn't really worry about the respect of the industry because I started a company that was going to do things differently. And my whole goal was, I'm going to set up a company that is working on behalf of the customer. It's going to be about solutions. It's about not walking away when things get hard. I'm going to figure it out. My company's going to figure out, and we're going to care about solving this customer's problems and becoming an expert at it because it matters. They matter. And I was going to have a company that the people mattered to because I didn't see much of that either. So when we got up in front of a customer, the boys did their business differently, and it was a boys' club. And as a woman in the industry, you just had to be better. No question. And I had already learned that I need to know my stuff. So the focus for my company and for me and the way we did business, I had to be extremely honest, very transparent. I had to be clear in my communication, and I had to be extremely confident. And I had to be better. I had to know more. I had to execute better. I needed to respond better. I needed to find the right solutions. I needed to really take care of this customer above and beyond what was happening that day. But I also knew that I had to know more. And if I'm going to get an invitation to the party or in a seat at the table, I needed to right away show what's different about my company, because it's pretty tough to compete with two guys out on a golf course drinking and yucking it up, right, all day long with this woman that you're like, yeah, right. So I had to know my stuff and I had to be confident. And I'll tell you something, that has been the kitchen in my home at my company for 33 years. I study the market. I learn about the parts. I listen to the customers. I listen to the suppliers. I am a constant, voracious learner because it matters. Because I can't help my customers solve their problems if I don't know, right? So I came from a world of the male-dominated companies were very opportunistic and they were masterful transactors. My approach in my company was going to be different. I'd rather be a consultant than a transactor. My job is to know as much as I can and give you as much information as is necessary for you to make the best decision on behalf of your company and your customer. And the rest will come. And so that was my culture. So when I started to build my business, everything was about the customer. And so I had to understand what the customers needed. And what I learned was, first of all, in order for you to be trusted, you have to put the quality in place. Everything was about quality, especially in our industry. And then you had to make sure that you had all of the proper operations. But everything and every approach, you had to be better. We were the first to be ISO certified. We were the first that created a checklist. We were the first. All of that mattered because it mattered to the customer. How can I help a customer? How can my company help a customer when they don't trust the quality? When there's a problem, there's a perception. So all of that, we were a pioneer in putting that in place. Then you get to talk to them about how to solve the problem. Everything was about building trust. And it was about building that philosophy and that culture within my organization. I would say that once you start building in that culture, it became really very much the fabric of what everybody believed at the company. We were audited very early. We've always been audited. I've insisted on audits because it's important, right? That it's validated. And every auditor would say, wow, everybody in the company really has drank this Kool-Aid. It's very refreshing, right? Because in a lot of cases, people don't really believe it, but we do at RAND. But everybody at the company is working on behalf of the customer. And I think that when I think about some of the lessons and what makes what women bring, so you've talked about it all week, but I think that there's probably 5 major things, and I don't know if you talked about it this morning. Number 1, women are good at relationships and empathy. I know Jackie said that. Number 2, they're really good strategic communicators. They just are. They have better EQ and skill sets. Number 3, women are very resilient and adaptable. So if there's a change in the market, and there can be, at a moment's notice, as we all know in technology, if there's a change in the organization, women adapt better to changes. Why? Because another quality they have is they're phenomenal multitaskers. When I have gone out and talked to young girls in junior achievement, 5th graders, and tried to, because I think we need to excite them younger. And these little girls they can't imagine themselves in technology because that's all about the math, right? It seems like it's a boys' thing. It's science, it's math. And I say, no, no, no. Let me tell you, it's in your DNA. You know how to multitask. You know how to work in a group better. You understand people a little bit better. You would be fabulous in this, right? You communicate well, right? So I think women are resilient. I think they have great adaptability. I think that women, again, are very good at multitasking. They're used to, which is important, especially in supply chain, because a lot of things are happening at one time. I think women are very good women have better personal awareness. And so when you're trying to develop leaders, a woman is much more open to being aware of her strengths and her weaknesses and being open to working on them and getting better. So there's a lot of these qualities. So when I talk about building a business, some of it, I like bringing in women to the company. I like women in leadership for all of these reasons. You're building a business and you've got to create credibility. You've got to do things right. You've got to set the company up right. You've got to do things right. And you need to acknowledge people in the direction you want to go, right, when they excel. I think the other most important thing, it's not just, so when you're building a business that people can trust, which is why some of my OEM customers they've been with us 33 years, right? Some of the biggest companies in the world have been ran as their number one partner for all of these years. Why? Because we always tell them the truth. We just do, right? Here are your options. This is not a good decision. Don't buy these. Or this is, it's just, if you are authentic and you tell the truth and you do it from a point of heart and caring, it matters. They trust you, right? I don't allow at my company people to overquote. I just don't. I don't allow people to lie or to a customer. We promote ethical, honest behavior with our customers, just like we do internally. Now, how do you build a team? So I'm kind of rushing through this because I know probably the most important thing, it's not just how you take care of the customer. You've got to have a culture at your company that they do. And I often laugh about it, but it's true. We have a different company at RAND. It's a different approach. It's a woman's approach. We like each other. We're nice to each other. We're respectful of each other. We don't tolerate. I have many experiences of earlier, having a company 33 years, you learn a lot along the way. And I know in my early years, boy, I wanted a really, really good group of people, and I really was so nice to them. And I was always generous and always kind. And then you realize, as you start to evolve, that I'm probably overdoing the nice thing. It's not bad. I mean, it's not that I shouldn't be nice, but I compliment people. You start to learn that. You know what? It's really not healthy to over-compliment and just make these broad compliments. It's more valuable, I learned, to be specific in how you compliment people, right? I learned that doing performance reviews, right? You can't say, wow, they're fantastic, but I'm sorry, we have to let you go, right? because you have to learn to say, you do these things, you're a 10 in these things, but these things you need to develop. So you kind of I learned along the way in developing people. So first of all, I learned that Be very careful who you hire, right? I hired, you hire long and you fire fast. You've probably heard that saying. I used to hire fast and fire long because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I had to reverse that later in my career, right? But I think it's so important who you hire. You know, I hire people first with who have incredible character and integrity along with capability. I will not ever choose someone that is the rock star from another company that is has a toxic personality. I did that in my earlier career. I won't do that again because that's a mistake. It just is. I don't know if anyone's had that experience, but I certainly have. And that's something you learn and you say, it's not worth it to the culture, right? In any part of the organization because it spreads, right? It's cancer. The other thing I learned in my career was don't take it personally. Sounds simple to say that. But boy, when you're a woman, and early in my career, you take things personally. Men don't. They really don't. You know, for them it's all business, but it's just something you have to learn in business, and you have to learn it early. It takes a while to get that, right? I think another thing you learn is how to be clear in your communications with people, right? I realized at a point in my evolution, but I realized at a point in Rand, people weren't growing, right? I wanted to see people grow more. And I realized that the reason why they weren't growing, here I was, you know, I knew everything about them. I loved them. I knew about their kids. I would travel all over the world and I would hug every single person. You know, I'm really very touchy and I'm like that. And I'm probably breaking every HR rule. So, but what I realized was without giving clear, concise feedback, I wasn't helping anyone. I really wasn't. I was telling people that they were doing a good job when they really weren't, right? I didn't want to hurt their feelings. I had different reasons, or I just wasn't clear enough in the communication. And I didn't do them a service. I realized they weren't growing. And I thought, well, they're not growing because they haven't advanced. And then I realized, well, why haven't they advanced? They're smart. They have initiative. What's going on with them? And then I realized it wasn't them. It was because they weren't being given the proper feedback along the way in their career to start growing in their position. They thought what they were doing is perfect, right? So that was an important lesson. And I think the other what was important for me when I started through this journey with my company, it was really important that I evolve personally, because you don't know what you don't know what you don't know. I mean, I wish I had better advice and say, I wish I had a story where I told you that I had these fantastic mentors and this is who mentored me along my way. In 1992, I didn't have a mentor. I actually was of the philosophy that I'm not going to go ask a man or anyone else for help, that I can do it myself. I'm just going to figure it out, right? It is my dream. It's what I want to do. I want to create a company. I want to do it differently. I want to make a difference for the customers, and I absolutely want to make a difference for this industry, right? Because it matters. And so I didn't have any mentors. And so I did it probably the hard way. It probably took longer to learn some of these lessons than it could have. I would recommend it now in the future because there's a better environment for it. But I would how important it was for me that I knew enough to get coaching for myself personally, because as I grew and I evolved, it was absolutely reflected in my company. And when the company stalled, I looked out at the company and I thought, that is a mirror for me, and I had stalled. And so for all of you in leadership out there, if you look out, I would say, if your team has stalled out, and you have the right people, because if they're smart and have initiative, you can train anybody, right? But if your team is stalled out, the question might be, or it might be worthwhile to wonder if maybe you have stalled out, because your team, that was something really important that I hope I teach people now in my company. The difference between a leader and a manager is a leader's job is to influence, and a leader's job and the reflection of their success is their team. And so, you can take it even more personally and say, look, how the team is doing right now is a direct reflection of me. So I need to stop for a second and take a look and see if there's something I can correct that can help correct it within my organization. So some of the things that have helped me, since I'm talking about personal development, I created habits. Jackie and I have talked about this a little bit, because we've talked about, it's easy to grouse, you're talking to other women, and we're all sharing our stories and things. But, there are a lot of lessons for women, the simple ones I talked about, the obvious ones, you've got to be better. You just do. It's still a man's world. You can't whine. I wish I had a better word for that. When you get into, am I allowed to say that, Jackie? If I was at the temple, I'd call it kvetching. So if anyone's Jewish, which I only know of one person here. But what I mean by that is things come up that are even more challenging for a woman many times than a man. You cannot stop and complain about it if you have a dream and something to accomplish. So I will give you an example. You have to be strategic. So when you are faced with a challenge, because you're a woman, rather than getting upset and complaining, you have to outthink them. You have to be more strategic about it. How am I going to accomplish this and get around this and work through this? That's just all that's about being resilient. That's about being adaptable, right? That's about being unflappable during challenge, because you've got a goal and you're doing something important. It matters. So I had in the early days, I bought a lot of product in the 90s from Japan. And Japan had a culture at that time that maybe a lot of people did, but they didn't really trust female businesses. And so I, at that time, would send communications over and I would sign it A. Klein. And I did thousands and thousands of dollars worth of business with them over 2-3 years. I never wanted them to know. I knew that they would not sell me product or allow me terms or anything else if I were a woman. And so I didn't tell them I was a woman, and I just signed it A. Klein. And 3 years into this business, they decided on Golden Week they were coming to the United States to meet such a great customer of theirs. And I thought, uh-oh. So they came, and they were shocked. I mean, there were probably 5 of them, very conservative, the briefcases, the dark suits. And when they walked in and discovered A. Klein was Andrea Klein, I would say that I might as well have had 3 heads. So, but here's what was important about it. I had a company that was extremely trustworthy with very high ethics. To this day, and for 33 years, I pay my bills on time, period. We tell our suppliers, our customers, everyone gets the truth. We uphold ourselves we are very ethical in how we do our business, and we follow best-in-class business practices. You have to, as a woman. You have to. You have to be better. You have to be the best. And so, even though they were shocked out of their minds, they went back, and we continued to do business for many, many years after that. They never said a word about it. They didn't laugh about it. There was no sense of humor about it at all. So, but if you do the right thing, right, it will reward you. So, we were talking about, Jackie and I were talking a little bit about habits, and we were talking about, I didn't have mentors, I didn't have anything, so I had to create my own habits. But I get up every single day and at 5 o'clock, and I work out every single day at 6 o'clock in the morning, Monday through 7 days a week. Why do I do it? I do it because it makes me feel strong. It makes me feel powerful. It gives me a discipline. It's doing something for myself. But it's a discipline of mine. I weightlift every day, or 5 days a week. So I do that because when I feel physically strong, I feel emotionally strong. So I have that discipline of health. I'm eating all bad food. Where is she? There she is somewhere. I have toxins. I also, every single Sunday, I spend my Sundays from at least, usually earlier, from noon on, working. So Sunday is the day, and every Sunday for 33 years, that I sit and prepare my week. So I know what's going to take place. I can prioritize. I can outline what needs to take place. And that has served me well. I hit the ground running Monday morning, every Monday morning. And that's a discipline that I have not missed in 33 years. Every single day, I spend at least an hour learning about my industry, about the parts, something about the market. I do networking, whatever I need to do. I spend a minimum of 1 hour a day learning something I need to know. I spend my weekends in personal development. I like to run, or I will walk, or whatever I do. And I always listen to an audio tape on self-development or leadership development. So these are just some of my habits. But I have these disciplines. And the reason why I think it's important is because you have to have good habits if you're going to make it, right? So I'm probably, what's challenging, and what many of you, when we talk about people and culture and disciplines and what it takes to be successful, there are many, many people that tell you that they want to be successful, but their actions are not in alignment with their words, right? I really, really want to be successful. I'm sure some of you sales managers, don't you have people in your group that say, I really want to make a lot of money. I need to make more money. Really important to me. Make more money. Really? So they say that, but they leave at 4:01. They're not prepared on Monday morning. They're supposed to be remote working from home on Monday and Friday, but you can't get a hold of them. So one thing I learned, disciplines were important to me because I knew what I wanted, and I was going to outwork everybody, and I was going to be disciplined because it mattered, right? It was important. So I needed to get that in there because for women in business and women in technology, we have to be better and we have to be disciplined. if we're going to really make it, if it really matters, right? So I think that women in supply chain and in technology are better suited than men. I just do. I think we are completely underrepresented. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm the only one in my channel that is doing this, because women are better with people. They build better teams. They have more empathy and relationships with the customers. I don't know why. But I know that when I look around and I see this organization and what Jackie has done and everybody here, I think, wow, is this ever a start? And if everybody would, kind of hold hands and not claw each other to death, which I didn't hear that part this morning. Honestly, I don't see that a lot. I don't see that, but, but I think that what women can bring to this industry, I hope that everybody here that's in technology understands how important technology is. Technology has everything to do with our food supply, our environment, our healthcare, our transportation, our children. I mean, it's changing. It is so important that it changes lives. And what we do, you're all right now, we're all sitting here right now, we're in the middle of one of the most historic moments in technology, the birth of AI. Wow. I mean, what AI can accomplish. Don't think about the things that are terrible, because people said terrible things about the internet too. It was going to destroy the world. So, but the benefits of it, I mean, the fact that, we're in technology. We're not selling shoes. We're not, we're in technology. This benefits billions of people, not just your little office and not just, your company and not just, literally what we are doing at this industry and what we do, just think about it, is benefiting billions of people all over the world. And just these simple things. Let's say you work at DigiKey and you're selling somebody some fuses. That might seem kind of silly or not very valuable, but you know what the truth is? That fuse could go into something that could go into something else that is going to be important for this sector, which is important for these people. So don't underestimate what you're doing, because we're all in supply chain. We're all part of technology. Technology is changing the world. I cannot think of anything more important. I cannot think of one single thing more important than what we do. And all of you guys are doing such a great job at it. You came here today, you're networking, you're talking to each other. You're so underrepresented. We're so underrepresented. And you guys are so good at what you do, right? So I'm sure this earlier talks were about just standing up and taking your place at the table. But just know that it's not going to come just because you're a woman. You're going to have to do a little more work, and it's going to be because you're better, right? So anyway, unless somebody has some questions, I just want to leave you guys with, I'm really proud of what you guys are doing. It is really, I've had a really long career. And when I used to look out earlier in my career, there'd be 3 ladies. They were in HR. Right, or they're running back and forth with the microphone, right? So when I see this, I really get excited. And I hope you're excited about what you guys do, because it's not just important because technology is important, but they'll write about you one day. They will talk about how there weren't very many women in technology. So you guys are pulling other girls up, right? So you're important to history. So thank you all for what you do every day.